An NRL Premiership winning player with the Newcastle Knights, Troy Fletcher captain-coached Western Suburbs to grand final success in his debut 2002 season. But with his 31st birthday fast approaching, so too is retirement. Lakes provide the final hurdle before a grand final berth, as he hopes there's 2 games left for him yet.
I'd love to think I've got 2 years left in me. Pull the pin at the end of the year. I'd like to go out on a winning note with the 2 games, yeah, definitely.
Lakes will have a lot to say about that. A relatively young team, they've lived up to expectation quicker than anticipated, and with pace to burn, the side doesn't mind throwing it about.
We're going to mix it up a bit, but yeah, like you said, I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, we're just going to stick to our normal game plan and see how it pans out for us.
Ironically, both teams have beaten each other away from home this season, but Sunday's match is on neutral territory at Newcastle's number 1 oval. West forward Todd Pavlo won't be playing though. For the 3rd straight year, injury has wrecked the country players' finals campaign. Meanwhile, the Newcastle League Board has voted to retain the current competition structure for next season after Central Coast teams rejected approaches to join the competition. In Newcastle and Hunter Rugby, the Waratahs will be out to beat Wanderers and jump into outright second on the ladder. While in NBN Soccer, Edgeworth and Broadmeadow fight it out on Sunday for a grand final spot against Western. Even when championship points aren't up for grabs, rally drivers rarely take it easy, and most had their foot to the floor in today's warm-up at Eastern Creek. It's tonight's opening stage of the New South Wales round of the Australian Championship that they'll really open up, including series leader Cody Crocker, who won't be easing up for anyone.
It's not good enough for us to sort of sit back and get 3rd or 4th, if they're winning the heats, because we'll run out of points, we'll run out of lead.
His main rival has a name almost as purpose-built as his Mitsubishi machine, with Finnish driver Juha Kangas aiming to close an imposing 16-point margin.
If I win this one and next one, then I am champion, but I need to win.
That's easier said than done, considering the weekend action winds them through the rough Wadigans on the Central Coast, where just completing the rally will be tough enough. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
But what they lack in size, they certainly make up for in detail. The Our Town and Model Show at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre has attracted lots of big kids and some small ones too. Once again, the humble television provided plenty of entertainment, while the Ken and Barbie tram certainly got things moving.
For the uninitiated, downhill mountain bike racing doesn't hold too many illusions, but there's much in a name. Yes, it's downhill, but for the elite, it's at breakneck speed, dodging trees, rocks, and at times other riders, all while racing the clock. This is the Hunter Club's third downhill venue, after being forced to move due to insurance problems. And while the track itself may have been hard to follow at times, it could have been worse. Just ask Lee Watts. Avoiding the trees, but not the dirt. He'd do well to learn from this man, Adam Smithson. Following him, though, is a whole different story. It's all about speed for this 26-year-old. Turning into something of a slalom rider, he relies on instincts.
Practice, years of practice, no brains.
It does spring to mind, but it's a winning combination that earned him the title at the weekend and secures him as the best in the state. He beat home Sydney's Ricky Boyer, but you get the feeling it wasn't all about who won.
Is this the best fun you can have, do you think?
It's up there. It's up there, for sure.
Trish Stevenson knows too well the toll asthma can take. Her daughters Courtney and Olivia have both suffered since they were babies.
They can't run around as much as they normally would. They sort of sleep more. They cough more.
And they're far from alone. In fact, 1 in 4 Australian children has asthma. There are a range of triggers from viral infections to pollen, and now the impact of another, passive smoking, is coming under closer scrutiny. Researchers at the John Hunter Children's Hospital will measure inflammation in the breathing tubes of children with asthma.
And in particular, whether their parents' smoking affects that type of inflammation.
In adults, smoking produces a form of asthma that doesn't respond well to treatment. This study should show if the same is true in children. Researchers hope it'll also provide further fuel for the Quit campaign.
Certainly we've seen in families that smoke, there's an increased incidence of asthma, but also an increased incidence of other respiratory infections.
The study is being funded by the Hunter Children's Research Foundation, one of 5 new grants totalling nearly $100,000.
For many people, especially smokers, the thought of banning the practice from clubs is almost like announcing the end of the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I don't think they'd come if they weren't allowed to smoke.
Clubs will end up shutting down.
Larger clubs like this one at Hexham that rely heavily on poker machines for revenue don't want to upset their smoking pokie players.
Clean air doesn't pay. Unfortunately, the harsh reality of club life is that we can't live on clean air alone. We have to have the mix, and that's the fact of life, and we've got to respect that.
Down at Lake Macquarie, though, the air is already a little clearer, with the Royal Motor Yacht Club at Toronto, the first in the region to ban smoking indoors. Members wanting a puff have been relegated to the deck, and after getting over the initial shock, it seems they've come to terms with the ban.
In 10 years' time, I don't think there'll be many venues where you can smoke indoors at all.
You know, the comment was made that there could be job losses. If it comes off the way I think it's going to, in fact, we'll be creating jobs, not getting rid of jobs here at the club.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. Sprawling ocean views have helped thousands of patients recover from illness and injury at Royal Newcastle Hospital. But 2 new apartment buildings right next door have given those in the wards more than just the view to look at. Some nurses have reportedly complained of seeing wild lovemaking sessions in the multi-million-dollar apartments opposite. According to sex therapist Sandra Pertot, high-rise sex with the drapes open is nothing new.
As the younger people that are less inhibited than the older generation might be, who, they wouldn't see what's wrong with. Why not have sex with the window open where all the world can see you, Why not? Why not let the sun in?
The council says increasing density of housing in the inner city means people should consider their neighbours.
As we see more high-rise buildings and things going up, it's a question of people exercising what is deemed to be correct discretion.
Nurses are apparently worried about the effect a sighting could have on their elderly patients.
Well, it could cause an early coronary maybe for some of them. But, there would be people that would find it very entertaining. Why not sit there and wait for them, every afternoon at 4 o'clock? It could give them something to live for.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The packed field of players from the mining and electricity industries took over Muswellbrook Golf Course for the annual Black Coal Challenge Cup. It took just 2 weeks to fill the draw for the event, which also had a dozen teams on its reserve list. The Drayton Coal No. 3 team won the golf competition, while the Rescue Helicopters fundraising coffers were boosted by almost $71,000, bringing the event's total to $250,000 in just 4 years.
Like so many around him, Matt Helm arrived home draped in Olympic glory. After the Sydney welcome, the silver and bronze medalist returned to his Brisbane training base, but was thinking of Newcastle.
You're actually a Nova Castrian though, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah, through and through.
Not due in Adamstown for another 2 weeks, the Helm family will have plenty of time to re-watch Matt's amazing silver medal winning dive.
I did my last dive. What I didn't know at the time was that I had to average 10s, which is a perfect dive, to take over and get the silver medal, and I did that, which was just a fairy tale ending.
Meantime, fellow Newcastle Olympian Martin Kelly was greeted at Williamtown by his 3 nephews. Making it to round 2 in the heavyweight judo, Athens was the 31-year-old's first and last games.
If you're in an Olympic sport, that's what you're looking for, and now I've completed that. I feel honoured that I've done this for Australia.
And at Belmont, it was a long-awaited family reunion for Olympic sailor Chris Nicholson today. He and Gary Boyd were an Athens hard luck story. After being in medal contention, the pair false started in one of the final races of the 49ers class.
We went out, had a first, a second, and then we were leading that race, and we started just, a foot early. It hurts, but that's the rules.
Todd Nardi, NBN News.
If you buy this Newcastle East apartment, you'll not only get spectacular ocean views, but a second-hand BMW will be thrown in as well. It's a new trend in real estate, sweeteners such as holidays and cars to entice buyers.
I think it's more or less to try and attract the buyer who probably normally wouldn't have got out of his front door to go and have a look and maybe like the place and buy it.
And with dozens of luxury apartment blocks going up, it's a very competitive market, and it seems anything is worth a try. Meanwhile, at Cardiff Heights, another family is offering their 26-foot yacht as an incentive to sell their Longworth Avenue home. The $359,000 property has been on the market for a few weeks, and the owners are moving to Rockhampton soon. They hope the bonus of a yacht will speed up a settlement.
As soon as we'd mentioned it, it just seemed to be popping up all over the place that a great deal of people are putting nice little bonuses in because of the slump in the market lately.
The sweeteners are a sign of the stalling property market, with house prices in Newcastle and the Hunter increasing by less than 1% over the June quarter. But between June 2003 and June 2004, prices increased by 25%, setting a new average house price record of $330,000. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's no surprise the Edgeworth $10,000 Fours tournament has an ability to attract plenty of lawn bowlers. In fact, there was even a team from the Pacific Islands, Fiji, finishing 12th this year.
It brings out the best. It's good prize money, 4,000 of the winners, so it keeps them honest.
The seventh running of the tournament produced the closest result yet. After 2 days and 4 games, 9 teams were deadlocked with 3 wins each. The front runners all week with the New South Wales Institute of Sport under-25s, led by Central Coast bowler Aaron Sheriff, but a draw in their final match robbed the young guns of victory. After 6 games, the Valentine Club was among 3 teams with 5 wins for the week. It came down to shots for and against to separate the sides. Curry was the eventual winner, with Valentine relegated to 3rd. Todd Nardi, NBN News.
This was the backlash from staff and students. Though fairly peaceful, there was plenty of passion. There be a small minority of students who have plastered posters across the campus, targeting international students and urging white women not to have sex with black men.
Oh, it makes me sick.
Protest organisers say international and Indigenous students have a right to study without racist attacks.
Every day is a good day to come out against racism. I mean, the fact that it was raining and we still managed to get a couple of hundred people really shows how committed the university community is to stamping out racism and promoting cultural diversity.
The University of Newcastle prides itself on its acceptance of students with a diverse range of cultural and religious backgrounds.
We have people from more than 90 nationalities, but certainly we have a great majority of people who come from places such as Africa, Asia, Latin America.
Coincidentally, human rights advocate Moira Rayner presented a lecture at the university today titled Human Rights and Social Justice. She condemns such racial attacks as a human rights violation.
I would say those posters need to come down. Graffiti like that needs to come off. As soon as you see it, it's actually your duty as a citizen to get it off and to make sure that the authorities do.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
A long time between drinks for footy fans in Port Stephens, to say the least. Bottle shops, banks, even beauty salons are all celebrating the Northern Blues' place in the Newcastle Rugby League Grand Final. Nelson Bay hasn't been represented in a league decider since 1989, and Blues fans, thirsty for success, have their boys pinned as hot favourites against the might of Western Suburbs.
No, we got bigger blokes than them and we got better blokes than them. No, we'll do them up on Sunday.
They're going to go sensationally, working very hard. It's been a long time coming, but they'll get there Sunday.
The product of Nelson Bay and North Newcastle club amalgamations, the Northern Blues have never played in a grand final. Win or lose, this team already has a place in the area's league history.
The expectation, the hopes, everything about it, they're really keyed up, and they more or less can't wait till Sunday.
And don't let this country town fool you. It may be small and quiet, but history shows Western is one of the strongest soccer spots in the Hunter.
It's very rich in their premierships, the 70s, the 80s, early 90s. Then we've had a lull.
The Western Bears will play their first grand final in 8 years when they meet Broadmeadow in the NBN Soccer League decider. Bears supporters already have the team's clubhouse prepared for a Sunday night party. All they can do now is hope their side brings home silverware for the occasion.
I think it means a lot, as the little people behind the scenes, they appreciate it so much.
Todd Nardi, NBN News. Always little bundles of energy, it's hoped these faces can be little bookworms as well. 250,000 children across the country were part of a reading of Muddled Up Farm.
On Muddled Up Farm, the cat says,
While some young ones are a little unconvinced, it's hoped the day and National Literacy Week will encourage parents to regularly read to their children.
Because research proves that establishing a reading habit at a very early age has a significant impact on literacy, especially during school years.
Meantime, there was also good news for relentless young readers at Warners Bay today. The Biddabar Public School has opened its new library. $600,000 has been spent to give students the latest computer equipment, along with countless chapters and volumes for their reading pleasure.
It was the 222nd time Robbie O'Davis ran out to play in the red and blue, and the last. There were the trademark runs, the setting up of tries, and the saving of 4-pointers at the other end. Full time marked by one last war wound, but by far the toughest task lay ahead, saying goodbye. After 13 years, the emotion was clear to see. And he wasn't the only one saying farewell. After fulfilling everything he'd ever dreamed of, Matt Parsons also hung up his NRL boots.
I love my teammates, I love the Newcastle people, and mate, I get to come back here and hold my head up high and walk into the ground and walk into the sheds and still be mates with everyone.
Others are moving on to other teams, including a reluctant Ben Kennedy, who heads to Manly.
I didn't want this time to come, but it's come and, I have to get on with life.
While Tamana Tahu will return in Parramatta colours.
You'll take it easy on us when you come back, won't you? Yeah, I will. I hope the boys take it easy on me.
But it was O'Davis who slowly crept around the ground one last time after 13 years with the Knights, a reflection of a club now looking ahead.
We've got to salvage something from this year and then put some planning in place and try and come up with a better strategy for next season, and I guess that's what we're employed to do.
The Worldwide Fund for Nature says National Power's decision to end a legal challenge to the state government's rejection of Red Bank 2 is a national first in reducing pollution that causes climate change. The company wanted to duplicate its existing Red Bank operation near Singleton, but was knocked back last year because of concerns about greenhouse emissions. National Power is yet to comment on the legal challenge. company says talks have begun with Newcastle Council, state government agencies and Carrington residents on an upgrade of its Newcastle terminal. Proposed work includes the construction of 2 new storage tanks and a pipeline connecting the terminal with a fuel unloading facility in Newcastle Harbour. BP says the move will improve the security of its fuel supplies for Newcastle, the Hunter and the Mid-North Coast.
It's a most unusual place to hold a party, but with breathtaking views, plenty of parking and some awesome entertainment, the Coorua Bypass rivals any ordinary function centre. And while the opening of a new stretch of road seems like an odd thing to celebrate, for the people of the riverside fishing town, this was a function they just couldn't miss.
I thought it was great, terrific. The local people out and around, terrific.
Hundreds turned up wanting to see what the years of fuss had been all about. They took bus tours of the new highway, some wanted to feel it under their feet. And although it's been the centre of much controversy, there were only a few concerned faces at the bypass bash. Everyone seemed relieved all the fuss was almost over.
We live down the river and we won't hear any more noise of the night when we're trying to sleep. I think that's the best part because it's finished.
A bit worried about what it's going to do to Coorua, but not too bad. My family live in Coorua, so. But other than that, it was really good. I enjoyed the walk across the bridge.
Meanwhile, back in Coorua, this week's shock announcement the bypass would open next Wednesday had begun to sink in. A philosophical service station manager reluctantly resigning herself to what's sure to be quieter times.
We're going to wait and see, as all the businesses are going to do. It's a wait and see what happens. The first 3 months will be hard, and then we'll see where we are after Christmas.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
Queenslander John Guy was counting his blessings today. His 11-metre cabin cruiser was intact and firmly tied to the wharf after a scary night at sea with 2 crewmates. He recounted the experience with members of the Coastal Patrol who towed the boat into port after he came much closer to Seal Rocks than planned.
When that first happened, we were drifting towards the red sector of Seal Rocks, and then I started to shake, believe me, and then the set changed and we started to drift south. Thank you.
Crew members counted 7 thunderstorms during the 6-hour operation to tow the boat back to Port Stephens. All on board were cold and wet and battling the rough conditions.
Storms all the way, lightning strikes all around us on the water. The radar, of course, didn't show up any vessels at all because it just picks up all the rain, so radar was pretty useless to us.
I've never struck conditions like that, you know, as severe and that being in that predicament. But these fellas were marvellous.
A fuel blockage caused the drama. John will continue his voyage from Hervey Bay to Sydney once repairs are made. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
What a view the new Eastern Grandstand at Energy Australia Stadium is providing workers on the site. The structure's roof is taking priority at the moment, with mid-April the earliest time spectators will enjoy a look. The ISC Trust, however, need to know much quicker than that if they're to get funding to rebuild the Western Stand.
The big problem we've got is that we've got about a 3-year time frame left with that facility before we are faced with having to knock it down and redo it.
Waiting 3 years, the Trust has renewed confidence their $22 million request will be given the nod in the remaining weeks of the election campaign after yesterday's Liberal pledge to help upgrade Penrith Stadium. It broke the government's own stance of not approving such grants.
Yet the precedent is there. There's been money put into Gosford, as we know, which is council owned, and now Penrith, which is council owned. So we're hopeful.
But just how much, if any, is promised is also unclear.
We're very confident that there will be something forthcoming. Just what the size of that something is, we don't know.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Whale watching doesn't get much easier than this. Morning walkers and people on their way to work were treated to a beautiful sight just metres into the surf at Newcastle Beach. The Southern Right and her calf spent the morning just behind the breakers, lolling about and giving the little one time to build up strength for the big trip back to the chills of the Southern Ocean.
Southern Rights were the whale hunted really closest to extinction, and they're taking longer to recover, so it's good to see them here again, and as they're recovering they're breeding further north up the coast, so it's good to see the animals returning, and as an animal that comes in very close to shore, people get to interact quite closely with them.
There is thought to be as few as 2,000 Southern Rights left on the planet. Pre-whaling numbers were estimated at 100,000.
Given this one is with a calf and looks like it's a newborn calf, they often revisit to where they were born or give birth. They tend to come back and use that area again. So we've had about 3 or 4 mother-calf pairs over the last couple of years coming and visiting us here, and so it seems to be growing every year.
National Parks has urged people not to get too close, with all whales protected by a 200-metre exclusion zone. Meantime, the humpbacks are due to return south with their calves over the next 6 weeks, with 300 of the giant mammals expected to brush the coastline. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The sight of a marked police car is usually enough to make motorists who might be driving faster than the speed limit temporarily change their attitude. However, over the next 2 weeks, it could be an unmarked police car that fills a speeding driver's rear vision mirrors with blue and red lights.
We'll have the fully marked cars out there, the unmarked cars, we'll have random breath testing going, and we're certainly wanting to encourage people to slow down.
And the Lower Hunter Commander makes no apology for using all of his road safety armoury to ensure holidaymakers have trouble-free passage to their destinations.
We're very serious about trying to make sure that people do get away to have a good time and that other people aren't going to be interfered with, and we certainly don't want to be delivering death messages or tragic injury messages to families that are left at home.
Motorists who can expect to encounter unmarked highway patrol cars include those heading to Port Stephens, into the Hunter Valley and along the Pacific Highway north of Hexham. The newly opened Karua bypass will receive attention from traffic police. They'll be watching for heavy-footed drivers on the 110km/h section of the highway and northbound motorists who may be showing signs of fatigue. Gary Blair, NBN News. There was no accident, nor was there a medical emergency. The Hunters Rescue Helicopter instead called in for the first leg of a special international aid mission. The Maitland Christian School students loaded the aircraft to the brim with 230 gift-filled shoeboxes, prepared for Operation Christmas Child so they can be delivered 13 weeks from this Saturday. Inside each box there are 6 specific items for the recipient to eat, wear, play with, use to write or draw, to love and for their personal hygiene.
We send them to countries that don't have as much as us, and it's great to give to other children, so we know what it's like to give.
For rescue helicopter pilot Kevin Ratcliffe, whose son Tim attends the school, it was his most unusual mission in 25 years of flying, which includes service in the British Royal Navy, and he was keen to take part.
You know, we go to 1 or 2 schools, but, filling the helicopter full of shoeboxes is just completely, off the plot. It's different, definitely different.
And the rescue helicopter's help was also rewarded with a $500 thank you from the pupils to their Operation Christmas Child Angels. Gary Blair, NBN News. When it comes to picturesque locations to unwind, you could say Port Stephens is top shelf. While the long drink can make the experience more enjoyable, retailers have formed their own Tomaree liquor accord to ensure tourists and locals don't drink to excess and spoil the stay of others.
As licensees, we're right at the front of the alcohol industry. We're the point of supply, we're the point of service. So our programs are going to be developed around local stories and local issues.
76 liquor licensees spanning hotels, bottle shops and restaurants are Accord participants. Their decision to tackle problems like underage drinking, drink driving and hooliganism has police support.
Oh, it's very positive. It's one of the things that we've been trying to achieve for some time, but for the licensees to take the initiative themselves and really push forward with this is incredible.
And as tourists arrive for the spring holidays, they're being assured the move doesn't mean the end of fun at the bay. Rather, it's about making their visit a more pleasurable experience.
Be safe and secure. That's what we want.
We want people to have a good time here in a safe environment, and we want them to be responsible for their own actions and working with the licensees in ensuring that responsible service of alcohol so everyone has a good time.
Gary Blair, NBN News. The $640,000 fleet upgrade includes a four-wheel drive engine for battling bushfires. Among the vehicle's features are cabin insulation screens and an external sprinkler system to protect firefighters if the vehicle gets caught in the middle of an outbreak. A new generation dual-engine cabin has also been brought into service for urban call-outs.
As opposed to their day jobs, these police weren't big on asking questions first. There might have been a few eyebrows raised though when the Australian Federal Police team turned up for their first ever Nationals with Ken Nagus in their side.
I'll give you the tip, I'll be very quiet. I'll be just on the right hand side, just sort of take it real easy.
Opposition sides would have wished the former Canberra premiership winning player had stuck to his word as the Feds burst out of the blocks against New South Wales Barbarians. The Feds putting on 16 points against the defending champions in the first half alone, before going on to score a 36-20 win. Although the Nationals are as much about bringing police from across the country together as it is about winning, the lure of Australian team selection for a tour of Argentina doesn't hurt either.
I think most of the boys want to try and get on that, so that's why they're sort of having a crack at it today.
The home side, Country North, scored a 22-14 win in its opening match against Country South, with Simon Chappell scoring a double, including one to seal the game. Western Australia, Northern Territory and Victoria helped make up the week-long 8-team tournament that concludes with a final on Saturday. After finishing fourth the night before in the 800 metres, his plan for the 42-kilometre marathon was simple.
No matter what happens, I'm leaving everything on the track, and with 10k to go, I took a shot to the front, and the rest is history.
And what a story. Going out hard, he suffered a puncture with 5 kilometres remaining, and unaware he held a 5-minute lead at the time over the field, he simply pushed harder.
You had to work a bit harder, but I made it to the end, and it didn't go down completely, and I can't believe it now. I can't believe I just won the marathon in Greece in 2004.
Rolling into the stadium exhausted, he had little left to give before crossing for his second gold for the Games and a dream fulfilled.
There's parties, I'm sure, brewing from Carcourt to Newcastle and everywhere in between.
Australia, though, slipped to 5th on the medal tally overall, but Hunter-based athletes will return with a swag of medals, with another 4 won at the weekend, including a silver on the track with Heath Francis, while Prue Watt added 2 to her collection.
Nick Flanagan continues to show why he's the pride of Belmont. In his first game back home, the 20-year-old set a new course record, finishing with 62. That's a staggering 10 under par.
Come about a week too late, but got off the plane on Saturday and come out and play with Graham and a couple of the other boys, and went all right.
He's just as casual about the company he keeps. Far beyond being starstruck, Nick, with his new caddy Graham Stockley, will set up camp with golfing great Stuart Appleby in Florida.
He's offered to let me stay there the week before tour school. Our coach is going to be over there at the same time, so it should work out good. He's got awesome practice facilities where he is. It's where all the big names live, Tiger and all those guys.
As for his longtime mate Graham, life as a caddy on the pro circuit will take some getting used to. A roller coaster ride of highs and lows, but water off a duck's back.
And there's times when Nick might hit a bad shot and might not want to talk for a little bit, so you just got to know when to keep your distance.
Both leave for America on Sunday to play in Las Vegas before starting tour school, hoping to qualify for the rich US Tour. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
A strong nor'easter and not a lot of swell would have been enough to discourage many surfers, but it would take a lot more than that to slow down 140 of Australia's top grommets. In 2004, Newcastle has been included on the expanded Grom Search series. The 7-contest tour started at Torquay last month.
We've included Tassie and we've also included South Australia this year. And this is the first year we've been into Niue. As I said, we're stoked to be in Niue.
And the Grommies were trying every flick and slide they could manage in this morning's under-16 boys opening round. It's the premier division in the series, with the winner in Newcastle to join champions from the 6 other contests at the national final in March. In line for that honour is Central Coast surfer Eddie Toomey after a solid heat this morning, along with Mitch Noonan from Nelson Bay. The 15-year-old Port Stephens surfer finished second at the first Grom Search contest, form he's confident of reproducing throughout the summer.
To make most of the finals over the whole series, which is like 5 events.
With the 140 grommets competing in breaks between Bar Beach and Merriweather until Sunday, the local surfers simply can't expect to have all the waves to themselves. Todd Nardi, NBN News. What a year for Matt Bingley. After winning the last ever National Soccer League Grand Final with Perth, the former Newcastle United captain moved back to Newcastle, got married and opened a shoe shop. Now he's made yet another big decision to play with Central Coast in the State Soccer League.
The Central Coast was a good thing for me at the moment, close to home, and they're playing in the State League, which is probably the second best league that we've got. So
Bingley, who played for Newcastle in 2001 and 2002, will be joined at the Central Coast by other United players, Scott Thomas and Keegan Wolfenden. The State League, starting in November, will provide much-needed match fitness. However, the players will certainly be available for the new Australian Premier League next August, if given the call-up.
if it's Newcastle, if it's Perth again, who knows, the Central Coast might be in it as well. So, fingers crossed, I'm just going to get myself fit, keep playing, and hopefully that's enough to get myself into a new APL.
All players have been free to join State League teams, with national sides unable to make offers until clubs for the Australian Premier League are announced next Thursday. While nothing is 100% certain until that official announcement, Newcastle United says receiving a participation agreement from the Australian Soccer Association late this afternoon means the club is almost guaranteed a spot in the 8-team competition.
We're like expectant parents at the moment. We know that there's going to be hopefully some good news.
Todd Nardi, NBN News.
So I got like a terrible start. I missed the whistle, but luckily, because I'm a bit bigger than the other girls, I ran around now.
No, definitely not. I'll be fighting rain, hail or shine. I'll be there and ready to go.
Saying all the time, mate, it's got to be up here. It's got to be up here because otherwise, bang, you better keep it right up there. Or keep it up here, Chad, all the time and keep moving around and see what happens. If he does well here, we can take him to the world and I can offer him fights in Asia or America or UK or Europe.
It's lucky ultimate frisbee players are as thick-skinned as they are skillful, because over the years they've had to put up with those who only see the lighter side of their sport. They don't mind, rather they're just happy to see their sport growing, with the National Mixed Championships in Raymond Terrace an example of that. Only the Northern Territory and West Australia aren't represented among the 23 teams in town.
It's a sport that's been coming out of the universities and it's now getting beyond that. Tournaments like this sort of take it outside those big capital cities and, you know, it's really growing.
In saying that, Newcastle Uni has two sides competing, including their National University Games winning team, which has been bolstered by 3 World Cup players.
I think everyone's here because they want to be competitive and they, we want to have fun, but we want to win it.
Undefeated in their first 3 games today, it's the Sydney Siders that are the ones to beat this weekend.
Each of these flowers represents a life tragically lost. The symbolic blooms cast adrift by families and friends living with the aftermath of suicide. Beverly Thomas lost her 25-year-old son 4 years ago.
Lifeline were able to help me achieve this goal, to get here to celebrate my son's life.
In an attempt to raise awareness about one of the Hunter's biggest killers, a memorial service was held at Warners Bay this morning. Around 100 people take their own lives every year across the region, and Lifeline says family breakdowns, financial problems and isolation are among the biggest contributors. Research has also shown the risk of suicide is far greater for people who have lost someone the same way.
With suicide, there's often the feeling that perhaps I had something to do with it. Perhaps I didn't do enough. Perhaps I should have noticed. So there's a degree of guilt.
Lifeline is working to prevent suicides through its Life Matters program, which provides counselling support for people who are discharged from hospital. Colleen West, NBN News.
Lorenzo has to be one of the stupidest blokes on earth to be stuffing us up and then letting other people catch up to us.